Hey, hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you today? Good evening where you are in London, England. And Sister Alpa, it's so great to be on your show, your podcast, and
Oh,
I'm so very proud of you. And our connection is divine. There's no question about that. So thank you so much for the invite. I am looking forward to a very powerful and revelatory conversation tonight.
oh my God, like you've just taken the words out of my mouth. Bishop, I'm going to address you as Bishop Larry Gaiters, but Bishop when we're having a conversation, if that's okay. And no, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. I think the beautiful synchronicity of how we've had our connection. I think just before we begin, because we're going to be deep diving today for sure. I watched the Greatest Global Coverup a few months ago, and we were sharing this podcast amongst our WhatsApp group. And we were all in awe and inspired with the information that you were sharing, especially about the Black Lives Matter movement, Kobe Bryant, etc. So in my mind, I was just saying amongst friends, I would love to do a podcast with Bishop Larry Gaiters after you done one with Charlie Ward. I even said to him that, you know, we need to do one with him. And the next thing I know, I see you've already done one. So I think it was divine intervention that when I woke up one morning to see a friend request from you, and I was
Yeah.
absolutely blown away. So I am humbled that we are having this chat today.
Well, I'm very humbled as well, woman of God, and I'm very cautious who I reach out to. I'm very meticulous and very methodical because I'm a public figure, and so just to give a refresher of who I am, not just what I am, but who I am to your audience. My name is Bishop Larry Gaiters. I am the host of the nationally syndicated Global Spiritual Revolution Radio through the iHeartRadio network in the iHeart Media Group here in New York City, New York, and also through the WOR 1717 AM, the Voice of New York network here. And we are reaching between 20 to 25 million people per week. But now, since we are interconnected to the WOR 17 AM family, we have the capabilities and the opportunities to be connected between 100 to 200 million people
Wow.
on the world in at least 200 nations. So we've gone on the level of a Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Judge Jeanine, so we're so thankful for that. I've been in radio for 25 years, been in ministry for 40. I've traveled the world. I am a contract killer for the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of your listeners may be thinking, what does that mean, Bishop? Well, it means that God has risen me up, anointed me for such a time as this, to decapitate the system of the Illuminati that we call this global Baphomet Luciferian system. And so because of that, I have a lot of enemies. I mean, a lot of enemies, people who are absolutely coming after me, especially on YouTube, because they are agents of confusion. In my job, I'm not here to make any friends, but I thank God for you, my sister, for us to have an opportunity to get to know each other, to get to that point.
I'd like to actually interject there. Sorry to sort of take you off your train of thought, but I think that's really important. And thank you for sharing that with me, because what you are sharing before we get into the sort of nitty gritty, because it's such powerful information and it's going to blow people away. So I just want to sort of rein it back in for the new listener who knows nothing about this. I am not surprised that you will have this sort of animosity. You're talking about some deep rooted stuff. And the Black Lives Matter movement here, which was what motivated me to want to speak to you, and it's been on my mind for ages, because the discord, disharmony that the Black Lives Matter movement caused at grassroots level was shocking and disappointing. People at this level were fighting amongst each other. Ethnic groups were really aligning with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I can understand, the death of George Floyd caused outrage here. And for some reason, without kind of being aligned to it spiritually and internally from an inner plane, I didn't align with it, and I couldn't kind of go with the masses with this kind of whole let's support George Floyd, not because it's not great that he died, and of course that's not that, you know, no one deserves to die, yeah, and so it's not like that, but just because I didn't align with it, it suddenly makes me a racist. If I align with Trump, it makes me a racist. So there were things that were flooded over social media where, you know, if you don't like support Black Lives Matter, even with a hashtag, it makes you a racist. If you support Trump, it makes you a racist. If you put all lives matter, then really you have the height of ignorance. And this is the kind of petty mediocrity that has been spewing out in terms of contempt, hatred, animosity amongst the masses. I've been following what was going on in America, but here in the UK as well, it was petty. If you didn't support it, you were complicit in the movement.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say this because I know that you're saying a lot of stuff, so I can just sort of let you continue with the fact that, you know, you have a lot of enmity in this, but what you are going to share with us today is powerful, and I hope that people from the Asian background, everyone that's aligning with this, it doesn't make you racist if you're not, and you're going to tell us a lot of deep information. So I'm going to let you take it away without interrupting, but I just wanted to actually, cover that.
You know, I'm so grateful because of your wisdom, my sister. Knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject to know you're wrong. This is what I tell the world for those on the left. And I want your listeners to know as we begin to lay this foundation concerning the greatest global cover-up in human history. Dr. Albert Einstein had once said concerning a coincidence, and notice the first four letters is the word coin. So when you get organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, Antifa is the military arm of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is the propaganda arm of Antifa. So Dr. Albert Einstein once said that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. So when we look at Black Lives Matter, it is a terrorist organization. So to understand what's going on in the foreground today, let's go back into the background that began this conception of the greatest global cover-up in human history, which is the death of one Kobe Bryant. Now, in 1996, Kobe Bryant is drafted out of high school, out of Lower Merion High School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His jersey number was the number 33, okay? His daughter, Gigi, was 13 years old when they were assassinated. And yes, they were assassinated. And I'll come to that in the next 15 minutes. So then in 1996, Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, and then his rights were traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And so his close friend in that draft was a young African-American man by the name of Lorenzen Wright, who went on to greatness in the NBA. But Brother Wright was assassinated by the Dixie Mob out of Memphis, Tennessee. And so we'll come to that later on. So let's start with Kobe Bryant. He's drafted then by the Charlotte Hornets during the 13th pick of the 1996 draft. The number 13 is an Illuminati order representing the first 13 levels of the global, Illuminati order, of what you and I call the Scottish Rite Order, okay, or the New York Rite Order, or the York Rite Order. So on the back of the dollar bill, the US dollar bill, it has a pyramid or a pyramid with 13 steps going to the eye of Lucifer. Well, what is the first letter of Lucifer? L, Satan S, devil D, that's your LSD. We'll come back to that in the next hour. Yeah. So then Kobe Bryant is drafted. And for the first 7 years of his career, Sister Soni, he's uncontrollable. The deep state cannot control him. They can't rein him in, okay? And so then in 2003, Kobe Bryant is sent to Eagle, Colorado by the late Dr. Jerry Buss, the former owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, sent him to Eagle, Colorado to meet a knee doctor by the name of Dr. Richard Stedman, who is a member of Phi Beta Kappa.
Right.
So Phi Beta Kappa is the educational arm of the deep state,
Yeah.
while Kappa Beta Phi is the Wall Street faction. I'll come back to that in the next half hour. So why would Kobe Bryant go hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away from Los Angeles to Eagle, Colorado, as if there's no knee doctors in Los Angeles? I'll come back to that later on. And so why would the deep state send him to get his knee worked on, okay, instead of staying in Los Angeles? Because they were setting Kobe up. And so then at this time, Kobe was not a part of the Boule Secret Society. I'll explain who and what the Boule is in the next 7 minutes. So the greatest global cover-up of what you and I are eyewitnessing began at the life of Kobe Bryant in 2003. So he travels to Eagle, Colorado, okay? And he meets his knee doctor, Dr. Richard Stedman, who is not only Phi Beta Kappa, but he's a 33rd and 1/2 degree Mason, okay, of the Global Masonic Order. But Kobe doesn't know this. So then Kobe wants to stay in a hotel near the doctor's office. But Dr. Richard Stedman directs Kobe not to stay near the doctor's office, but to travel 50 miles away to Eagle, Colorado. Why? To set him up. So then Kobe travels 50 some miles away from Dr. Richard Stedman's medical office, then in Edwards, Colorado, to Eagle, Colorado, to stay at the spa, the Cordelia Spa Hotel, which is owned now by the Prisker family out of Chicago. I'll explain who the Priskers are in the next half hour. There's a lot of information here. Yeah. So then the greatest global cover-up in human history, Kobe's, he checks in at this Cordelia Spa Hotel, and he meets this young woman by the name of Caitlin Faber, capital Faber. Now, Caitlin Faber's parents are Phi Beta Kappa. They know Dr. Richard Stedman, but Kobe Bryant doesn't know this. So the deep state sets up Kobe because he's uncontrollable. No tattoos. He's not a part of any Black Boule Secret Society or Sigma Pi Phi. So he checks into this hotel in this girl whose parents are Phi Beta Kappa, the educational arm of the deep state, while Kappa Beta Phi is the Wall Street faction. So he checks in, but this girl offers to give Kobe a tour of the hotel. Right. That's not her job, Alpa. So she gives him a tour of the hotel. And then Kobe makes a grave catastrophic mistake of inviting Miss Faber into his room.
Oh, no.
One thing leads to another. Then 24 hours later, she doesn't go home that night and tell her parents that she's been raped. And she doesn't call the cops, the police, or the sheriff until 24 hours later. Why? Because she goes to her boyfriend's house and has sex with her boyfriend. And I'm not castigating women. I'm just revealing the truth as to why we are in this condition now concerning the coronavirus, which is interconnected with the death of Kobe Bryant. So she goes home the next day, cries rape, okay? And then they call the sheriff's department, okay, in Eagle, Colorado. Kobe Bryant is arrested. The sheriff is Phi Beta Kappa. Dr. Richard Stedman is Phi Beta Kappa. The parents of Caitlin Faber are Phi Beta Kappa. And the attorney that was assigned to Kobe is Phi Beta Kappa.
He was doomed.
Yeah, that's it. So a woman by the name of Pamela Mackey, capital Mackey. She is not only a member of Phi Beta Kappa, but she now represents Jesslyn Maxwell.
Right.
Pamela Mackey represents the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. Right. Jesslyn Maxwell and her law firm, Pamela Mackey's law firm, okay, the Haddon Foreman Morgan law firm out of Denver, Colorado. They're representing Jesslyn Maxwell, they're representing Harvey Weinstein, and they're representing R. Kelly. This was the former law firm who represented Kobe B. Bryant back during the summer of 2003 in July. So then who assigns Kobe to this attorney? Not the Los Angeles Lakers, not the Bus family, Dr. Richard Stedman. So Dr. Richard Stedman knows the parents of Caitlin Faber, and parents of Caitlin Faber know this attorney, Pamela Macca, because they go to the same Masonic lodge in the east section of Denver, Colorado. Wait a minute now. They know each other. So Kobe, in his naivety, him being naive, he doesn't know that he's being set up.
Yeah.
So the greatest global cover-up in human history cannot start with Antifa or Black Lives Matter or COVID-19. It has to start with Kobe. Because
well, this year was the start. This year was, you know, we was mourning this year. Everyone was like, Kobe Bryant died at the start in January. It's like, what a great way to start the new year. And did anyone have any kind of idea how this year was going to turn out?
We had no idea, but Kobe's death was the catalyst that gave birth to a global pattern. COVID-19, Antifa, Black Lives Matter. So Kobe Bryant then is prosecuted in July of 2003. Okay. Then this woman, Caitlin Faber, this is not the first time that she's done this to athletes. I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about Caitlin Faber. So a year later, Kobe gets off. He pays the girl off. Okay. And then from that time, in the summer of 2004, up until the time of his death, during that Sunday morning on the 26th of January, 2020, Kobe's life is never the same. He then is recruited into a Black Skulls and Bones secret society. Here we go. Called the Boule Secret Society. And for your listeners, that word Boule, is a Greek term, capital B-O-U-L apostrophe E, which means Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma, capital S-I-G-M-A, Pi, capital P-I, Phi, capital P-F-P-H-I. So that organization was created, my sister, on the 15th of May, 1904, in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the hometown of Kobe Bryant, which is also the hometown of the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Now, what does the AME Church have anything to do with Kobe Bryant? Because the founders of the AME Church, Frederick Douglass and Richard Allen, were also members of the future Boule Secret Society, okay? Also, Kobe Bryant was a 33rd degree Prince Hall Mason. Now, the Prince Hall Masonic group is the first Black Masonic order in American history, okay? So that is the first Black Masonic order in American history. Are you still there, sister?
Yep, and that started in the 1900s, right? 1900s.
Oh, yeah, I lost your video there. I don't see it. So,
let's see.
Yeah. So,
you see me?
No, I don't see you. No,
I can see you.
So, yeah. So what I'll do, I'll continue talking until that's corrected. I don't know why. Do you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. Wow. For some reason, I can't see you. But there it goes. That's deep state. But anyway,
I know.
Another topic. Yes. So then Kobe Bryant gets caught up with some powerful people. Now, in 1996, he is recruited by Arm Tellem, okay? A Khazarian devil who had formerly worked for the Wasserman Media Group. Now, the Wasserman Media Group was created by a gangster by the name of Casey Wasserman, okay, whose grandfather, Lou Wasserman, was heavily connected to organized crime here in the United States going back to the 1940s, the late Lou Wasserman. So the Wasserman Media Group was financed with mafia money, at least going back to the 1990s. These are the group of people, individuals that Kobe Bryant gets himself involved with, okay?
Right.
So then Kobe Bryant signs on.
You now?
Yeah.
I've lost you. Can you see me? Can you see me? Oh gosh. Okay. And we're recording again. So minor technical hitch. We're in really good flow of conversation, but I'll let you continue.
Thank you, Sister Alpa. So then, long story short, with Kobe Bryant, during the rape case, then his rights as a employee of the Wasserman Group, okay, they end up trading him or giving him off to another agency called the Landmark Agency Group out of Hollywood, which then was ran by Rob Pelinka, who is now the general manager in the president of basketball operations for the LA Lakers. Rob Pelinka was the last person who talked with Kobe Bryant. He called Kobe Bryant when Kobe Bryant was on that helicopter. And now somebody may say, well, Bishop, how do you know that? Rob Pelinka said this at the memorial on live national television before the whole world. How would Rob Pelinka know that Kobe Bryant was on that helicopter?
Right.
And then why did Kobe Bryant get killed? Because Kobe Bryant had a class action lawsuit against some of the most powerful pharmaceutical corporations on this earth. The Novartis AG Group out of Basel, Switzerland, which owns 2,500 pharmaceutical companies throughout the world, 3 of which were being sued by Kobe Bryant, okay? The NSAID Therapeutic Corporation, okay, which was ran by a billionaire by the name of John Kapoor, capital Kapoor, who's now in prison, okay, because he was lacing his weight loss pills with opioid substances. That's why Kobe was suing him, along with the Acorn Pharmaceutical Corporation and High Tech Pharmaceutics out of across Georgia, who is now, that company, High Tech, is now ran by Jared Wheat, who's under indictment by both the FBI and the Security Exchange Commission.
Wow.
The FBI, that's right, the FBI, because he was lacing his weight loss pills, Jared Wheat, with opioid substances using Kobe Bryant's nickname, the Black Mamba, and he is under indictment by the SEC, right? The Security Exchange Commission for insider trading. So Kobe Bryant was set to go to trial on the 29th, the following Wednesday, following that Sunday, had he lived, because he was going to expose the American pharmaceutical corporations, including one out of Basel, Switzerland. Now, half of Novartis, the Novartis AG Group, half of their stock is owned by 2 men here in the United States, George Soros and Bill Gates.
Yes. Wow.
So they were not going to allow some black man to expose him, okay? And then on top of that, Kobe Bryant was a member of the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Foundation, including he sat on the Clinton initiatives in the Clinton Foundation Haiti board, where the Clintons took millions of dollars from the Haitian people. That money was earmarked to go to the government of Haiti because of the earthquake relief.
Yeah.
Kobe knew this. And so Kobe was blackmailing some powerful people. And now in September, we get to COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter, kind of laying the foundation concerning the greatest global cover-up in human history. So then in September 2019, Kobe is contacted by a very powerful woman out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Her name is Princess Rima, capital REEMA. She is the daughter of Prince Bandar bin Sultan, whose name is in the 9/11 Commission for providing housing for the 19 hijackers during the 9/11 conspiracy. Wow. Why would Kobe Bryant get himself involved with these people? So Princess Rima was instructed by Mohammed bin Salman, who is running Saudi Arabian government and who is running the deep state in Saudi Arabia, to reach out to Kobe Bryant to see if Kobe Bryant can create a rival professional basketball league that will rival the NBA. Oh, that was a direct threat to Adam Silver and to the National Basketball Association. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia reached out to Kobe. They didn't reach out to Adam Silver. They didn't reach out to Adam Silver, but they reached out to Kobe and to the commissioners of the NFL, Roger Goodell, the National Hockey League, Gary Bettman, Major League Baseball. But they didn't reach out to Adam Silver. So then, getting back to Lorenzen Wright, this young man who was close friends with Kobe Bryant, he was assassinated because Lorenzen Wright was going to turn state's evidence against the National Basketball Association. Why? Because of rigging NBA games in concert to the American mafia here in the United States. They take out Lorenzen Wright, and then Kobe Bryant also gets himself involved with another gangster by the name of Joseph C. Lewis, capital Lewis. He's a British origin who is now on the run for both MI5 and MI6 in your country for tax evasion and for crimes, against humanity, having a lot of people, a lot of officials knocked off. So Joseph C. Lewis lives in the Bahamas, and he created the Bohemian chapter, of the Tavistock Institute. So then Joseph C. Lewis hired Kobe Bryant in 2018 to be the face of an online gambling casino industry corporation called Fun 88, capital FUN 88, which is now run by the triads in China. Wait a minute, they are the Chinese mob. Why would Kobe Bryant get himself involved? And then Kobe Bryant is contacted by LeBron James the day before he dies. He's contacted by LeBron James, LeBron James passes Kobe on for third place on the all-time NBA scoring list. Long story short, then the next day, Kobe Bryant's plane goes down. Yeah. The helicopter, and it's getting deeper now, that helicopter that Kobe died on, the Sikorsky 76B helicopter, was owned by a company out of Van Nuys, California, the Island Holdings Group. 3 years prior, in January of 2017, the Island Holdings Group, they traveled to Chicago and they purchased the plane that Kobe died on.
Wow.
From the Mormon Group, which is owned by the Pritzker family. The CEO of the Mormon Group is the governor of the state of Illinois, Jay Pritzker. Jay Pritzker owned that helicopter that Kobe Bryant died on. Now, some may say, well, Bishop, are you trying to accuse the Pritzker family? I'm not trying to do anything. My job, I'm a historian. I'm an academic. That's right. I'm a dot connector. And it's up for your listeners to come up with the proper conclusions as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history.
So sorry to interrupt. I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. And it's just so formidable at how intricately you are connecting and every person to this. I mean, memory is brilliant with all the names that are connected, but just to kind of take it a little bit back with the whole connection with Kobe Bryant, and you're mentioning Theta Beta Kappa and all of that. For the listener that's hearing about this all the time, you will be explaining about these 9 secret societies, right?
Yes.
So, you know, this is so important for everyone watching this to just really pay attention, you know, because it sounds a bit like, well, why are we talking about Kobe Bryant's death, you know, so in so much detail? But I mean, even now, as I'm hearing this for the second time, and I'm learning so many new things. So forgive me for interrupting, but it's so deep. So deep.
It's so intricate. We call this the compartmentalization of darkness. You have to understand that we're dealing with not only psychopaths, but sociopaths. A psychopath is born, a sociopath is made. These people, absolutely. And it's not about color anymore, Sister Alpa, it's class warfare. It's not about color anymore.
Psychological warfare. That's exactly it. It's a spiritual war, what we're going through. It's good over evil. And this is what I've been trying to say to people all along within my own networks, within my family, saying that, look, we are so far removed in society and around the world from our sort of inner selves and our spiritual practices to God. Yeah, we are sort of idolizing celebrity over and above God. And this whole deep state is just not understood. It's so, you know,
It
Alien,
has so many tentacles on the global level.
the conspiracy theory, it's that
Yes.
too deep. It's like the cognitive dissonance is at an all-time high, even now, even though there's so much information online, it's overwhelming, Bishop. So
Mhm.
sorry, I don't want to take your
No, no, you're good. You see, and the thing is, and I've been talking about the manipulation of Black pain and the weaponization of Black trauma, where the deep state has mastered the psychic of Black America for centuries. Whereas they know, we call this problem reaction solution, where the deep state creates a catastrophe, right? That will connect and reopen a response from Black people because they know Black people are going to react. Why? Because we never dealt with our historical pain in our present day trauma. So they manipulate through what I call the manipulation of reality. Okay. That's called isokinesis, the manipulation of time, chronokinesis, through the prism of the manipulation of probability. That's psychokinesis, or that's ECT. Well, that term, etc., is a term that witches have been using for the past 1,500 years. Now, getting back to Kobe Bryant, and later in his life, he was totally against Black Lives Matter. So then, when we're talking about his death, he meets a young man by the name of Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel. Who is Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel? He's a brain scientist. He never graduated with an earned PhD, Sister Soni. He received a honorary doctorate degree from Pepperdine University, which is a CIA think tank, just like the Stanford University's Parapsychology Research Institute. So Kobe Bryant, then on the day that his company goes public here in New York City on Wall Street, Kobe Bryant, and when you look on that YouTube page of Kobe Bryant ringing the bell, Jeffrey Little Midget Morgan Stiebel, who looks like Charles Manson, okay, doesn't even look at Kobe. Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel is connected to U.S. intelligence. And how do I know that? When you type in his name, his net worth, it doesn't come up. The net worth of Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel's net worth, it doesn't come up. It comes up with Kobe Bryant's net worth. Why? So Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel created a corporation, a foundation called the Brain Gate. Excuse the sirens, back in 2010. The Brain Gate then became connected to both the CIA and the National Institutes of Health with Dr. Little Tony Midget Fauci, okay, in 2013, to a program called the Brain Initiative. So Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel is U.S. intelligence, but yet he was inserted into the life of Kobe Bryant to neutralize Kobe, because Kobe was going to go. I have a contact here in the FBI in New York, and I have one contact in the FBI office in Los Angeles. Friends of mine who are pastors whose names I would never reveal. Both of them told me specifically that Kobe Bryant was instructed to go into witness protection because he was going to expose the Clintons,
right,
Jeffrey Epstein, Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel. There's a foundation called the Lifeboat Foundation, which Jeffrey Epstein not only knew Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel, but Jeffrey Epstein knew Kobe Bryant because Kobe Bryant sat on the same board, the Lifeboat Foundation. So on the morning of the 26th of January, 2020, Kobe flies out of John Wayne Airport, the same airport where 5 executives, a few months prior, the executives of the W Hotel chain in Hollywood. Now, what does the W Hotel chain have to do with Kobe Bryant and COVID-19? Because the W Hotel chain is owned by the Pritzker family out of Chicago. These are mobsters. So the W Hotel chain and its entire executive board was wiped out a few months prior during an airplane crash. where their jet flew into a residential area. They were set to testify before the FBI that following week because of the Clintons, Jeffrey Epstein, okay, Adam Shifty Schiff, okay, his connection to a man by the name of Ed Buck, who was a pedophile who had killed three African-American men. Three black men, young black men, were found in the hotel room at W Hotel, okay, a year prior to the death of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant stayed in that hotel in 2012 because he was separated from Vanessa Bryant. After Kobe's death, the following day, the Bryant-Stibel stock triples. Wait a minute now. Now, the week before Kobe's death, his stock plummeted. He was losing millions of dollars. He was about to expose and fire Jeffrey Morgan Stibel. Why would Kobe Bryant get himself involved with Jeffrey Morgan Stibel, who's under indictment, my sister, for Ponzi schemes from thousands of people in California and from the state of Washington? So then Kobe Bryant was sucked into this conspiracy. So after Kobe's death, now, what does Kobe Bryant have to do with George Floyd? Now, George Floyd, you notice when he was taken out, not because he's black, George Floyd's former boss is a Spanish woman by the name of Maya Santa Maria. Now, Maya Santa Maria was the former owner of the nightclub in Minneapolis, right? The El Neve nightclub.
Yeah, that's right.
Who was good friends with Vanessa Bryant, the widow of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant would frequent that nightclub once a year when he played for the Lakers, and they would travel to Minneapolis to play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Maya Santa Maria is a major drug dealer in Minneapolis, who I also have a contact in the Minneapolis Police Department, okay? So then as a side note, I have a relative who's a cop within the Minneapolis Police Department, but I have not talked to him in years. So it's not him. I have another contact, a Nigerian brother. So he told me that George...
Do you not fear for your own safety?
You know what? And that's a great question. I have a security detail. I was poisoned last year, February of 2019, at a restaurant here in New York City with arsenic, thallium, rat poison, excuse the expression, rat feces. I was rushed to the hospital, spitting up blood. They had to pump my stomach, almost died, right? Now I'm taking medication because my body's messed up because of that. So because I'm exposing the Boule. Now the Boule Sicker Society, they are the Black Skulls and Bones. The Boule Sicker Society was started with Rockefeller money.
Right.
This is going to blow your mind. Every Black organization in American history was not organically created by Black people. Every Black organization in American history was built for us, but not built by us. And I want you listeners to listen to that, because that's a powerful paradigm.
Yes, it is.
When talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history, all these organizations were built for us, but never designed nor built by us. So when you look at the NAACP, SNCC, CORE, Urban League, all started with Khazarian Jewish money. Now, I'm not anti-Semitic, so I don't want your listeners saying, oh, Bishop is an anti-Semite. Stop. I tell them, stop. Listen. So we have to follow the money in order to get to the truth. You can't get to the truth first in order to get to the money. Follow the money. So George Floyd was a major drug dealer.
Yes.
People don't want to hear that, but George Floyd, who was a bouncer at this El Neve nightclub, which was owned by one of the best friends of the wife of Kobe Bryant, okay, Vanessa Bryant. This woman, Maya Santa Maria, she said, and I quote, "I didn't know that George Floyd and Derek Shaver knew each other." She's lying because she employed Yes, she employed George Floyd as a bouncer, and she employed Derek Chauvin as the head of security
How
detail.
can you not know each other?
Hey, she knows. She's come, and they burnt up not just the nightclub. They burnt up a radio station that she previously owned. Another
Wow.
topic for another day. So these, and we can't skip over this or that. We have Kobe Bryant is is a connected, intricate part of what's happening now, because the name Kobe in Hebrew means COVID. So the name Kobe in Hasidic Hebrew is a transliteration meaning COVID. Okay. So it's a certified vaccination identification process. So then Kobe Bryant was taken out. Now, George Floyd, it's going to get deeper here as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. Now, George Floyd was taken out because he was owed drug money by the Minneapolis Police Department. 70% of the cops were on the take with drugs from George Floyd. So they took out George Floyd. Now, why did they arrest George Floyd? They arrest George Floyd because of a counterfeit $20 bill. Okay. Now, the serial number, it gets deeper now, on the $20 counterfeit bill that this young man was taken out matched the serial numbers of the nearly $1 million worth of U.S. counterfeit money that was confiscated by the FBI and by the Department of Homeland Security, December 2019, okay, which did not hit the local press in Minneapolis until the day after Kobe was killed on the 27th of January 2020. So the serial numbers on the $20 bill of George Floyd matches the serial numbers of that nearly $1 million worth of counterfeit money that came up out of China, the same nation who had unleashed COVID-19. Now, here comes Black Lives Matter. Now, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa.
Question, sorry, about George Floyd's death. So, wow, left me a bit tongue-tied and blown away. However, the discrepancies about George Floyd's death,
yes,
just how even the social media, like us truthers, try to decipher his death, like, the size of his coffin, right, the protocol of how they took him when he died, the whole sort of media manipulation about his knee, I can't breathe, and all of that, it was just one big show. Right. And then here you've got people, well-meaning people that are outraged that a poor person who was just out there in the Black Lives Matter movement that got killed, and it was an act of racism. So when I was trying to piece all of this together, a few things didn't make sense, obviously, about how he died and how the what's his name, who just gone out of my head. Sorry, you've just blown me away here. The cop that killed him.
Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin. Yes.
He was looking straight at the camera, and that made mainstream news everywhere. So it all seemed very manipulated and contrived, and the whole thing all seemed like a setup, right? Then you've got people all over the world having memorials of him, and he's become like a martyr. So this bit about the because he was on drugs as well before. There's video footage of him having had the fentanyl. I don't know what it's called, but that drug, right?
Yes.
There's footage of him actually being high. So the whole thing is just so crazy.
And this problem reaction solution is when the deep state creates these and powerful comment that you just made there, as a woman of God, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history, this problem reaction solution, because the deep state creates a catastrophe to create an emotional response from Black people which the deep state is going to give them a solution that the deep state already had before they created the crisis. That's problem, reaction, solution. But we also have non-problem reaction solution, where the deep state, get this, they create the perception of a problem when in reality, a problem doesn't even exist. You don't need a real problem. You only need the design of the perception that there's a real problem.
100% agree with that.
It's heavy. So 80% of the property that was destroyed in Minneapolis was legally underwritten and insured, my sister, by Berkshire Hathaway. Who owns that company? Warren Buffett. Old Grandpa Look with this Sunny Book Farm persona, he's a devil. He owns 80% of the buildings that were destroyed in Minneapolis because Berkshire Hathaway, through the National Indemnity Insurance Company, which Warren Buffett owns. So while Black people are destroying their own neighborhoods and come back 6 weeks later, where's my story? You burnt ignorant. Then these people, Warren Buffett, they end up making millions of dollars at the top by manipulating both the pain and weaponizing the trauma of a people who don't know who they are. And so the other 80% of the buildings that were insured is owned by Governor Jay Pritzker. Wait a minute, he's the governor of another state, but he owns 20% of the buildings that were burnt down. The same Governor Jay Pritzker who formerly owned the Sikorsky 76B helicopter that Kobe Bryant died on. So now, Antifa and Black Lives Matter. There's a medical term I'm going to reveal to you. It's a long term. And this is what we have to break this down concerning what happened, not just to Kobe Bryant, but what we are eyewitnessing now. That term is called heteropaternal superfecundation. Let me spell it. Hetero, capital H-E-T-R-E-O, paternal, capital P-A-T-E-R-N-A-L, superfecundation, capital SUPERFECUNDATION. So that's heteropaternal superfecundation. Now, one may say, what does this have to do with the greatest global cover-up in human history? Glad you asked. It's a medical condition, which means a mother has fraternal twins. Both twins belong to the same mother, but they don't belong to the same father. So in a political sense, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, their political mother is George Soros, yes, whose real last name is Schwartz, which is also the real last name of one of these three Black lesbian witches. I'm sorry, I don't hold my tongue. These women, I'm talking about Alicia Garza, whose real name is Alicia, okay, Garza Schwartz, the same last name that is the real last name of George Soros. So the mother of Antifa is George Soros. The mother of Black Lives Matter is George Soros, but they got two different fathers. Here we go. Greatest global cover-up in human history. The father of Antifa is the Third Reich, beginning with the late General Reinhard Gehlen. General Reinhard Gehlen created an organization in 1932, a year before the advent of World War II, called Action, capital A-K-T-I-O-N, which means anti-fascist or Antifa. So then the father of Antifa, okay, is the Nazi Third Reich, the former Nazi Third Reich, where Adolf Hitler had directed General Reinhard Gehlen, who went on to create Operation Odessa, that would give former Nazi officers the opportunity to flee Europe and to travel all over the world. So Reinhard Gehlen created Antifa in 1932, but the flag of Antifa that you see today
is the same.
It's the same, but the flag of Antifa was created by a Russian killer.
Yeah, I saw this.
By the name of Mikhailovich Molotov, who is the father of the Molotov cocktail. Mikhailovich Molotov was Russian. Wait a minute. So the German Nazi Party, they were anti-fascist. But the flag of Antifa today is the creation of a former fascist killer.
Yeah,
a confidant of Joseph Stalin, who then in 1917, Mikhailovich Molotov had helped assassinate the Romanov bloodline. We call this the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, which that revolution received a $20 million check by the great-great-great-grandfather of Adam, what's his name? Adam Shifty Schiff. Wait a minute now. The great-great-great-grandfather of Adam Schiff, is the Kuhn-Loebing Company, So a man by the name of Schiff, it gets deeper now, A man by the name of Schiff created the Kuhn-Loebing Company, which still exists today, So this Schiff guy, who is the great-great-grandson, the great-great-grandfather of Adam Shifty Schiff, had given Leon Trotsky a $20 million check to take back to Joseph Stalin, to Lenin, Stalin, and of course, eventually to Molotov. So Antifa today, is a creation of both the Third Reich and the Bolshevik Revolution through killers. Wow. So then Jacob Schiff, I love teaching. See, Jacob Schiff is the great-great-great-grandfather of Adam Schiff, who's trying to destroy President Trump. Jacob Schiff then supplied a $20 million check to take out the Romanovs. Why? Because the Romanovs, who are related by blood to the House of Windsor today, they were related to the bloodline of Kaiser Wilhelm in Europe. They're all related concerning this greatest global cover-up in human history. Go right ahead. You just get ready to say something.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is this is so amazing, and like the depth of your knowledge and the intricate details that you know. And I say it, and I'm repeating myself here, but you made the connection to Trump, and that's why I wanted to stop you there, because you know this is all connecting for me. This might be mind-blowing for the newly awakened person, or just someone watching this for the first time who has no idea what's going on and still wearing a mask. I think that there's a deadly virus around, so you know, and they might just completely faint and be traumatized with this information. But thank you for going into even more detail with the death of George Floyd. My question really sort of is pertinent to the connection to Trump, and obviously there's so much information out there with Trump having a handle on all of this in the world, and everything is playing out right now. So just before I lose my train of thought as well, I'd like to cover that as well because of the connection to what's happening. Absolutely. Yeah, so just pause on your thought there, the connection of what's happening right now. I mean, and in the month of Red October, you know, and what's going on with Trump, and how this death of Kobe Bryant is, you know, connected everything, including the alliance, right? The Q movement, and
yes, and that's powerful. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
And you see, this is a side that I didn't know. I've been following the Q movement for quite some time, and there is so much information going on. And with Trump coming out just the day before yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, about declassification of information. He made a public tweet about it, which had all of us truthers sighing a breath of relief, like, you know, finally he's giving us something, because the D-class is everything that they've got on everyone. All these people that you're talking about interwoven with every pharmaceutical company, and everything. So just for the listeners, I'm giving Bishop just a little bit of a break here, is I want everyone to understand that things are not what we have been taught and what we perceive them to be. And I kind of metaphorically explain this as a funnel system. Yeah, that nobody is a born superstar. Like, we've got the Zuckerbergs and the Bezos and all these big companies, and we're all led to believe in this illusion that they all have made it through some success story. What blew me away with some of the things that I've learned from yourself, Bishop, and I'm so grateful for this knowledge, because it's phenomenal, is that, wow, the greatest global cover-up, it's the greatest global deception to humanity. So continue.
Yes. And you know what, my sister, you have a special gift of hosting, and a gift that man recognizes a gifted woman. And I want to share that with you, and I celebrate you.
Thank you.
This conspiracy is so vast, so in-depth, so interconnected, that the average person cannot comprehend this. Because you and I are told 7.7 billion people who are called corporations, because the body means corpse or corporation.
Yep.
It's to socially separate ourselves from 6 feet. So 7.7 billion people times 6 equals 46 billion, 200 million degrees of separation. 46 chromosomes you and I have. 200, that's the number of the catalog of fallen angels that's revealed in Enoch chapter 6, because you cannot understand, not you, but your people cannot understand the greatest global cover-up in human history without first understanding it from a spiritual paradigm.
Yep. Thank you.
And so then what's so scary about this COVID situation now, COVID-19. Now, before we get into that, Antifa was exposed, okay? Their mother is George Soros. The mother of Black Lives Matter is George Soros. But the father of Antifa is General Reinhard Gehlen of their Nazi regime, who was a Nazi master spy. But the father of Black Lives Matter was a secret society out of India, going back to the early 1300s, called the Thuggy Secret Society. Capital THUGGEE. So 3 men created the Thuggy Secret Society. BRYANT, his name means in the Sanskrit black. Lavith, capital LAVITH, his name in the Sanskrit means life or lives. And Morty, capital MOORTI, his name in the Sanskrit, my sister, means matter or DNA. Oh, Black Lives Matter.
Wow.
So the Thuggy Secret Society, their goddess is a 10-armed demon or demoness called Kali or Kali, Kali, which is the acronym for the term California. Kali not only means life, but she was worshipped by the Thuggy Secret Society. This is where you and I get the term thug life. They came from the Thuggy Secret Society during the 13, 14, 1500s, and eventually they were taken out in the early part of the 1900s by the British Crown. So the father of Antifa is General Reinhard Gehlen, okay? Because the Antifa today is the offspring of the Third Reich. Okay, they're the Nazis today. Antifa is the Nazis. Antifa are the fascists. And at the same time, the father of Black Lives Matter is the Thuggy Secret Society. Because Black Lives Matter, which was created by 3 lesbian stinking witches. You have to excuse my, listen, I'm a contract killer. These witches, okay, Alicia Garza Swartz, Opa Tometi, and Patrice Cullors are being paid millions of dollars by George Soros, their slave master, For what? To bring in both a Fourth Reich and the Fifth Reich. So the Fourth Reich is Black Lives Matter and Antifa. The Fifth Reich, they want to bring the United States into a realm of a communist caliphate. Because people like Barack Hussein with 1,000 different aliases Obama and his wife Michelle Obama, these are devils, okay, who don't love America. They want, and they're trying to destroy India. Why? Because the Prime Minister, Modi, is heavily connected and friends with our great President Donald J. Trump. Now, how did COVID-19, how was it unleashed? Oh, are you ready to hear this, Sister Soni? It's going to get power. Listen, look at that. Oh, say, yes. So here we go. Take your time. So in 2003, there's a pharmaceutical company out of Emeryville, California, by the name of the name of this pharmaceutical, the Chiron. So the Chiron Corporation, capital Chiron. Now, quickly here, Chiron no longer exists because as of 2006, man, it's getting deeper here. As of 2006, the Chiron Corporation, capital Chiron, was purchased by Novartis for $5.7 billion. Well, Bishop, what does this have to do with COVID-19? Glad you asked. Because Chiron had created the first 10 pathogens of the coronavirus called COVID 1 through 10. So Chiron, according to Greek mythology, was a half man, half horse, just like the logo of the Boule Secret Society, being half man, half woman, and half lion. That's the transgender sexual disorientation of the deep sea. Yes. So Chiron had applied for a patent, actually 10 patent numbers, because each pathogen, each protein of COVID 1 through 19 has a patent number. This is how sophisticated darkness is. Then they sell COVID 1 through 10 to the Novartis AG group, same company that Kobe was going to expose. So in 2006, Chiron sells these pathogens 1 through 10 to Novartis. 12 years later, in 2018, the Novartis AG group, they buy a 80% controlling stake of the Pirbright Institute out of England.
Wow.
Notice that, so then they bought a controlling interest, 80%. Novartis bought an 80% controlling interest of Pirbright for $12.7 billion. So you got $5.7 million Chiron sold to Novartis, 2006, COVID 1 through 10. Then 12 years later, in 2018, this Pirbright Institute that was created, okay, a year before the advent of World War I, that created gases and chemical weapons of mass destruction that brought a lot of physical diseases to the soldiers during World War I. Another topic for another day. So Novartis buys an 80% controlling interest of Pirbright, which at the time, my sister, Pirbright had already created pathogens 11 to 18 of COVID 11 to 18.
Wow.
So then now, as of June of 2018, 2 years ago, the Novartis AG group owned pathogens, proteins, and strands 1 through 18 of COVID-19. It's not called COVID-19 because it came out last year. It's called COVID-19. It is the composition of 19 proteins, 19 strands, and 19 pathogens of the coronavirus, which is a part of the SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome. It gets deeper here. Another company out of your neck of the woods, a company by the name of GlaxoSmithKline, bought the Novartis AG group later in 2018 for $13.7 billion. So both GlaxoSmithKline and Pirbright are controlled by British intelligence, MI6, which is the British equivalent of the American CIA. So Pirbright sold COVID 11 to 18 and an 80% stake of their company to GlaxoSmithKline. It gets deeper. Greatest global cover-up in human history. January of 2019, okay, a year before Kobe's assassination, the GlaxoSmithKline sells pathogens, proteins, and strands of COVID 1 to 18 to the People's Republic in China for $33.7 billion.
Wow.
So the People's Republic in China, through Chinese intelligence, the Ministry of State Security, which is the Chinese equivalent of the American CIA, according to my two contacts in the federal government, the Chinese have been recruiting scientists for the past 5 years. Before the unleashment of COVID-19 in America, all right, in February and March of this year, 5 years prior, in 2015, the Chinese government, through President Xi Jinping, okay, now the 1.4 billion people in China, I'm not saying they're evil, it's that communist regime in Beijing. They had bought COVID 1 through 18, and they were recruiting scientists from 2015 up until January 2020. For what? To create the 19th pathogen, strand, and protein of COVID-19 by reverse engineering the first 18 pathogens.
Wow.
That was bought by Novartis and BRYANT a year ago. You see, so then, in my conclusion, sister, so you have Kobe Bryant, Antifa, Boule, COVID-19, China, which takes us to the China-Vatican Global Agreement. What interest would the Chinese have in the Vatican system? And what interest would the Vatican, in which today they're ravaged with COVID-19? And maybe people are saying that Pope Francis had already died. Another topic for another day. So there are two agreements, September 2018. I'm sorry, that's a lot of information.
Yeah, there.
September of 2019, President Xi Jinping and Pope Francis signed an agreement. Why? That would give the Chinese Communist Party the legal right to choose bishops and to ordain them, even though the Chinese government is a godless government. So this is going to blow your mind. The following day after that September 2019 agreement, on the 23rd of September, it began the UK-China International Conference on Avian Diseases, where patient zero, a scientist out of the Hubei province, Northeast China, was contracted as a guinea pig at that conference with COVID-19. Listen, I tell people, listen, stop. COVID-19 did not come out of the wet markets. No, in Wuhan.
Yeah, that you know, I think the general consensus now,
right,
something's not right.
Right, and that's how, not to cut you off, that's how we come from Kobe Bryant, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, okay? You got Breonna Taylor, all of these people as an integral part. These are pawns in the game. As the greatest global cover-up in human history, Bill Gates, through the Bill and Melinda Robin Williams Gates Foundation, okay, George Soros, they own controlling interest of the Wuhan Institute of Biotechnology, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the Wuxi Pharma Aptech, whose address is 666 Goixon Road. So Kobe Bryant visited the Wuhan Institute of Biotechnology in 2018 at the behest of the Nike Corporation. What does Nike have to do with the biological system or properties of the government of China? What does Kobe Bryant have anything to do with the military and chemical industrial complex of China? Setting him up because Kobe's name means COVID. Kobe had his two last basketball camps, and we're done, was in the Wuhan district of China, COVID-19, in the Guangdong district, which is south of China, an 11.5-hour drive from the Wuhan district. Guangdong is the 2000 epicenter of the SARS virus, the severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's a lot to take in. So now you and I are eyewitnessing a Cold War happening in not just the United States, England, but all over the world. Not through the weapons of chemical mass destruction, like in a hydrogen or an antibomb.
Yeah.
You and I are eyewitnessing, my sister, a global conspiracy so vast, so planned, so intricate, that the average person doesn't know what's going on. Where you and I are told to socially distance ourselves from 6 feet, witches do that, going back thousands of years to invoke spirits. And now in 2013, and I'm done. In 2013, President Xi Jinping traveled to Malaysia and to Pakistan to give birth to the Silk Road Belt and Road Initiative. What is the Silk Road Belt and Road Initiative? It is a global Trojan horse for China to take over the world by telling the EU and many Middle Eastern countries, including India, hey, we will help you rebuild your infrastructure by giving you billions of dollars if you allow us to take over your country politically. So the countries today that are decimated with COVID-19 are the countries who backed out of the 2013 Belt and Road Initiative. Because they saw this for what it was, a Soviet-style takeover of the world. And my sister, that is the greatest global cover-up in human history. Mind-blowing information.
I mean, that's an understatement, really. Because I've been in this movement like since I'd say March, when the virus came out, and within the first sort of week I smelt rat. And that's because, like I said at the start, I've been going in. My intuitive nature and inquisitive nature and curious nature was like, as we say in Hindi, dal mein kuch kala hai here, meaning there's a black stone in the pot of dal, and so it stands out. Something is not right. Yeah. So as I investigated, I'd done my research, and I came across so many different things. It started with, like the immune system, this whole coronavirus stemmed from China, and it was created in a lab, and then there was the connection to Fauci, then Obama, and the funds that were given to the Wuhan lab, the 3.7 million in funds. Funds. And then we're kind of coming across this Q plan where, by the way, everyone's all Instagrams have been deactivated. Just to even mention the word Q. Now mine got deactivated yesterday. It got taken down. It's crazy. And my Instagram was private. It was a personal account. I didn't have anything to do with all this controversial stuff. It was just a personal account. It got taken down because I'd done a show the day before with an amazing truther as well, who I was telling you about, and it's done really, really well, like really, really well. He's phenomenal as well in his knowledge and his insight as well, like yourself. So this is like real deep, vast, deep information that you are, telling us and sharing with us at a spiritual plane. The issue that we have here, though, is that people are so left and right brained that, we are so removed from what is actually the reality, and we are led to believe that this kind of stuff is make-believe and it happens in the movies. So when we are not in tune with ourselves, within the powerhouse that we are as humans, within our intuitive powers, with the powers of meditation, etc., all the things that we are capable of understanding, that this sort of stuff will just sound woo out there. It's a conspiracy theory. So I want to take it back to its connection and your views on what's going on now, where we are now. So you've given us, and maybe we will do a part 2 to this. So just like, because I think we're hitting sort of 2 hours here, and I want to keep the audience interested. But It's brilliant, the explanation that you've given us, and the background to Kobe Bryant. Who would have thought that his death was so connected? I mean,
Yes.
we all thought at surface level that, oh my gosh, 2020 is really starting off on a great note. The poor well-meaning folks that are just thinking, oh, the connection to celebrity to all of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
How, and with the Q movement, what are your thoughts on what's happening right now? So we understand the background, we understand that there's so many layers to this. What are you expecting now, and how are you expecting things to unfold, Bishop?
The Q movement, I'm a big supporter of QAnon. I know a lot of the higher up personnel within QAnon, and I support them 1,000,000,000%. What is happening now is a brand new Cold War through the global pharmaceutical vaccination industrial complex, because the very term, my sister, pharmacy, comes from the Greek word pharmakia, which means witchcraft. And so because of these global events all being synchronized by the global puppeteer masters, here in the United States, Bill Gates is trying to pass what they call the Tracing Act bill of HR 6666 or 060606. So what's happening now, okay, is the total takeover of our government, but it's not going to happen. So then you and I, you got 7.7 billion people, and it's not about color anymore. It's about global control through manipulation of pain and trauma. There's a term here, it's called emancipation. And I was on Jason Goodman's show this past Tuesday on Crowdsource, and I was telling him through the weaponization of Black trauma, Black people were not liberated. They were only emancipated. What does that mean, Bishop? In regards to your question, because emancipation only means that they are now a controlled asset, a redesigned slave. So what's happening now, President Trump is destroying the second constitution. Let's say, wait a minute now. What's the second constitution, Bishop? The United States of America has two constitutions. The one from 1776, ratified 3 times, 1781, 87, and 89. But the second constitution, through the Act of 1871, to answer your question, because it's so heavy here. I love our flow here today.
It's great.
The Act of 1871 was the creation of both the Rothschilds out of Great Britain and through Pope Pius IX out of the Vatican, putting pressure on President Ulysses S. Grant in 1871 to destroy the first constitution that made us the United States for America, to create a second constitution that made us the United States of America. The first constitution, in answering your question, we were designed by God through the framers, Sister Soni, to be a Christian constitutional republic. In other words, we were called not American citizens, but an American sovereign in 1776. What does that mean? It means the individual is not beholden to any system of taxation.
Yeah.
The Internal Revenue Service today is an illegal entity. That came about because of the second constitution. And do you know, I don't know if this is happening in England, but every birth certificate in the world is traded on the stock market.
So this is the first thing that I spoke on Charlie Wood's show about 2 months ago, and lovely gentleman Sasha Stone has an amazing podcast on this, which is where I learned about this, how our birth certificate is duplicated at birth and then it's traded. And I've actually got a link that shows you where your birth certificate is traded and on how many trades. And these are big corporations. Yeah.
Yes.
And it blows your mind because this is tying in with the Nasara, the whole subject of Nasara. Everything is huge, and there's just so many deceitful lies that have been told to us. And where we are right now within the Q movement, what I'd like to sort of finish on is a positive note that, you know, things are being handled by Trump. He's got everything under control. And from my understanding is that this has been a takedown of the deep state and an operation with the alliance for over 20 plus years post K's assassination. There's all sorts of rumors that he could potentially be alive, and then there is the so many truthers, or the Anons, who've deciphered and used their discernment to actually feel JFK Jr. is still alive. Within this, so within this whole movement, where it is believed, which is the hashtag "the storm is coming" and "trust the plan," that this is under control, and Trump effectively, who took down the Feds, which people still don't know, the Federal Reserve System, now actually is like, so who's the exchequer of the US Treasury? The US Treasury's taken the Feds down, and who is the exchequer of that? Donald J. Trump, if I'm right in my research. And essentially, he is the exchequer of the world, right? Now,
President Trump is thereby, not to cut you off, is now he controls the financial destiny of nations now.
Yes.
You have to understand, not to cut you off, the deep state actually began in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. And that we'll get into that next time from a spiritual paradigm. But when JFK was assassinated on the 22nd of November, 1963 in Dealey Plaza, that was the activation of the deep state, okay? What President Trump did was genius.
Sorry,
to absorb.
1 second, can I just pause you for 1 second? Go.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but also your death certificate number is traded. When the person is 6 feet under, that death certificate is traded. But also, every social security number in the United States has either odd numbers or even numbers. Most people of color are 9-digit social security number or odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Where non-Black people, they have even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Why is that? Because of the second Constitution. Now you have a separation, not just church and state, but separating Americans by color and by a number. This is the greatest global cover-up in human history. And next time, God willing, we can get deeper into that. And for your listeners, and I know you have to go, I have to go as well.
Yeah.
There's another broadcast I have to go to out of Singapore. But I'll say this, is that your birth certificate number, death certificate number, social security number, your driver's license ID number is traded, your state ID is traded.
Yeah.
In other words, you and I are considered by the deep state a stock, a commodity, something that is a share. In other words, if we are shared from one stock market to the next, then who is the pimp? The global Baphomet Luciferian deep state. My sister, this is volume 1 of the global corrupting industry. Great today.
So amazing, Bishop, and I'm so blown away, humbled, and really appreciate your time here. And I think we've left it at a good point, and I think we definitely need the part 2 of the sequel, because it's given the overview of everything, and you've gone into deep detail about the whole Kobe Bryant, how it's connected to COVID and the secret societies. For the next one, we definitely want to now connect it to everything that's going on now, and it's taken a long time, so I understand you have to go. But for the next one, we'll definitely go into now where we are today, and the Trump movement, and God, I'm lost.
And Trump will win re-election. He'll win, not to get Trump will win re-election. We're not going to vote for sleepy, creeping Joe Biden who cannot remember his left foot from his right hand. That's not going to happen. So Joe Biden will be destroyed. President Trump will be re-elected, and the American people will eventually return back to the gold standard. Yes. We're going to return back to the gold standard. So another topic for another day. Thank you so much, my sister. Good show today.
Thank you so much. I know you have to go. Thank you so much, Bishop. This was amazing. Thank you.
You're amazing. Thank you.